Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, extending our coverage of fantasy football. We're no longer dipping our toe back into the water every single Wednesday on the Pat Mayo Experience. There is going to be fantasy football coverage, and the more and more we get closer to the beginning of fantasy football season and your drafts, the more and more fantasy football coverage there is going to be. So remember to subscribe, rate, and review to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. And if you do that and you leave your DraftKings handle and rate it 5 stars and say something nice about the show, you will be in a draw for $20 DK dollars, just like you will be if you smash the like button for this episode, share it around, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section, and tell me who your 4th, 5th, and 6th ranked tight ends are for the 2019 fantasy football season, because it seems to be pretty clear who the 1, 2, and 3 are. I'm very curious to hear who the 4, 5, and 6 are, at least what you guys think are the 4, 5, and 6 overall fantasy tight ends for the upcoming season. Joining me to break this all down, I do want to say, if you hit the description of this video, you can find the rookie rankings, dynasty rankings, running back rankings, and quarterback rankings. We'll have wide receivers in the future, probably next week, then the top 300. That'll be coming out as well. But joining me to break this all down with an update on quarterbacks from what we talked about last show from theathletic.com, at AllOnKid on Twitter, it's Jake Ciely.
Yes, and the draft kit launched yesterday, being Monday, whatever day you're watching this, the 17th. It launched, and I updated with my ranks and projections. I got you beat, 332, not including defenses, so 364. But Russell Wilson was not number 6, as we had that long debate about. Russell Wilson was actually 9th, barely in front of Lamar Jackson at number 10.
Really? That's where the staff consensus came down on everything?
No. These are my projections and rankings.
Oh, okay.
These are my full-on projections. Pass attempts, completions, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, rush attempts, rush yards, rush touchdowns, and fantasy points.
You're just giving away this information for free? Why would anyone need to go subscribe at theathletic.com then?
Because I only told you 9 and 10. I was only updating you because we had that lengthy conversation about Russell Wilson. I thought it was interesting that I said that he might not finish as high as we were talking about at number 6, and he didn't. And then I thought it was very interesting that Lamar Jackson finished as high as he did, which his numbers for passing aren't even that great, and they still did. But you can go to theathletic.com. Oh, there's 2 ways. Right now, if you go to my rankings link, you should see 40% off instead of 30% like it was. If you don't see 40% off, the more difficult way is you could actually go to theathletic.com/draft kit and get 40% off. But one way or another, it's now 40% off, so you can get all these rankings and projections that I only gave away 2 of.
Yeah, I don't think you need to say front slash. I think you can just say slash. People know how websites work.
This isn't 2001 anymore. I don't have to dial up the modem and to give the description of a back or front slash.
Yeah, I don't think so, at least. Maybe there are those who are inept out there who really need the distinction between back and front slash. You could just say slash, and then it works out much better. Or you could just have some fun with it. Athletic.com, guitarist for Guns N' Roses, all in kid. Boom, you're good to go.
Do I have to say slash like you did? Do I have to go slash?
I mean, the higher you can say it on the frequency, the more the people will know that it's just slash.
Let's say slash.
Well, that's too loud. I mean, it sounds like you're going all through puberty again, Jake. Let's talk about tight ends. Like I said, you can find all the previous rankings in the description of this video. You can find all the rankings cheat sheets up on dkplaybook.com and full list up on my Facebook page, facebook.com/thepme. See, that's how you do it. I guess the big question, it seems to be a very consensus top 3 tight ends as a part of tier 1. But I want to throw this out to you. What if tier 1 only involved one player, Jake?
I think there's a legitimate case to be the Kelsey tier of his own. I actually, if you wanted to break it down in tiers, I'm not going to give too much away, but you can see with the points would suggest he's a tier by himself.
So Kelsey, Kittle, and Ertz, 1, 2, 3. I mean, you could switch up Ertz for Kittle. I don't think that anyone, at least from a floor standpoint, along with upside, can really challenge into that top 3. Maybe you can make a case for someone, but it just seems to me like, and I guess we don't know the extent of the Tyreek Hill situation, and we're not really sure how my main man, Michael Hardman, is going to end up being like, because we talked about like the different like ranges of suspension that Tyreek Hill could get. Now he's been somewhat exonerated. I mean, not even somewhat. It sounds like he's been exonerated from the crimes that he was charged with. That doesn't mean he won't end up receiving an NFL suspension for bad judgment. We've seen that in the past, but it does seem to me like the suspension will end up being shorter than everyone kind of anticipated.
Yeah, because as I was one of the people that thought it might be the entire season. Man, when you hear some of those clips and you see the reports and stuff like that, we assumed more. And then, as you said, the legal side of it from the non NFL side, like the real life side of it, got dismissed almost. Basically, they stopped. Basically, they stopped their investigation. As you said, the NFL could do whatever the heck they want. They look at the Ezekiel Elliott situation and what he got in the middle of the season after even fighting back and forth because the NFL could do what they want. You brought it up on the show that would it really surprise me if it was Tyreek Hill 2 games or Tyreek Hill the entire season? There's a wide range of outcomes. As you're saying, though, right now, I think that we're definitely off the full season. Is it Kareem Hunt 10 games? That wouldn't surprise me. Is it only 6? Also wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to sit here and say what it should be. I don't think anybody knows what it's going to be. I think it's going to be something, but even if it was only 2, I think that's a possible scenario. I think we could see anywhere between 2 and 12.
Fortunately, for most people that end up doing fantasy football drafts, that they should have this information before draft season actually starts. Although the internet likes to talk about it, very few people are actually doing drafts right now. Just people who do this for a living are doing drafts right now.
Zeke was mid-season, don't forget. So, and I know his was partly because he was fighting it, but I mean, this is something like I wouldn't be surprised. This is a surprising one where I wouldn't be absolutely at all if it was 10 games and Hill fought it. Like, I think that we could see that scenario happen all over again.
That would be somewhat intriguing. But either way, as it pertains to Kelce, I think he's the number 1 tight end, regardless of whether Hill plays or not. And then you have that extra benefit of if Hill is suspended, you would just increase his market share more. I think that would just up his numbers. So he has the floor, he has the best floor, he has the best upside, but he actually has the upside for even more should this Hill thing extend. Like if Hill was playing, he'd still be my tight end 1. But I don't think he would be on a tier by himself. If Hill is out even half the season or 6 games, I think that vaults him to a new level.
I wouldn't say a huge level. I would say it would be more of, I would expect a little bit of decreased efficiency, despite overall still moving up. I think the efficiency would drop off a little bit. So if you have him around 140 targets for next year, probably jumps up into the 160 range, even 160 plus, but maybe it's not the same reception, yards per route, touchdowns per reception. Like maybe those numbers all drop back. I don't think it'll be severe, maybe 5%, but 5% is enough that if he drops back in those numbers, it's not like he's going to say just, all right, 20 more targets. He's moving up another 30 fantasy points. I think it'll be a little bit less efficient, but it'll still be, as you said, now even a wider gap.
So we talked about this about probably a month ago now, and I'm curious to see where he's been going in early drafts. In a 12-team league, how often does Travis Kelce go in the first round? 1 of 10 times? 1 of 5 times?
In the drafts I've done so far, and they've only been magazine experts, quote unquote, or like so analyst drafts so far. I think he's only made it in the first round once, and I've done almost 10 already, but it's been very quick in the second round. I think it looks like people are hesitant, which doesn't make sense to me because you and I have talked about like this type of strategy before. I see him go with one of the first couple picks in the second round, which to me, I'm like, if I'm with the 11th pick and I'm ready to take him in the second round, that being Travis Kelce, I'll just take him in the first to make sure I get him, because the difference in the running back or wide receiver I'm taking in the second round is not as great as it would be if, somebody snags Kelce before your second pick. So if you're willing to take him there, just take him in the first round. Don't risk him not making it to pick 15.
Yeah, see, that's the way that I would be approaching it too. Do you think that he could be good enough this year and stand out from the rest of the tight ends, even tight end number 2? And we're saying right now that's either Kittle or Ertz, but depending on touchdowns that are really difficult to predict, that could be Eric Ebron again or someone we haven't even thought of becomes the number 2. But is he that far of a cut above everyone else that you'd be okay taking him in the first round? And do you think that he should be treated that way?
I think he should be treated that way. I won't do it just because I am so in love. Well, no, I love the value of those next 3, the ones that you ask people to rank, which we're going to get to. I think tight end as a position rebounds this year. Not great, not that we should be like, oh, tight ends are amazing again. But it's those 3 after the top 3 where I think if you look at their draft cost and how far off they are from even Kelce, the disparity of them versus like if you pass on a bell cow running back and then you're playing a hit or miss there, or if you wait on a wide receiver and you go running back tight end and now all of a sudden you're down on the wide receiver. I just see the value with those next 3 where I'm not doing it, but the value is certainly there. Kelce deserves as pure value to be in that Rob Gronkowski, Jimmy Graham discussion from when they were both basically wide receiver top 10s that one year. That's where he deserves to be. So if he's a top 10 wide receiver, you treat him as such, that's first round value. Actually, probably more like a top 6 or 7 wide receiver. but it's all about whether or not you want to make that investment.
Well, let's play this game then. If we just scratched out TE from next to his name, Tee, and we put WR next to his name, where would Travis Kelce, do you think, rank amongst wide receivers? Like if we just go down and play the names, DeAndre Hopkins or Travis Kelce? And remember, we're not talking about positional value anymore. They're all wide receivers.
Right. No, I could tell you right now, I'm looking right now. For me, he would rank wide receiver 7.
All right, so you'd have
that's second round,
and we're talking full point PPR here again, folks. Like I know we are talking full point PPR.
All right, well, then full point. He's still 7.
I had people like, do you do half point PPR or do standards? Like, I can't be doing 5 different shows for 5 different things. Like, we're doing PPR here. You want to talk to Jake? Jake puts out rankings for all of them. So The Athletic / all in kid. You can get all his rankings. When you're tuning into the Pat Mayo Experience, we're talking PPR here. So you'd go like Hopkins, Julio, Michael Thomas, Beckham, Juju, Devontae Adams, then Kelce if he was a wide receiver.
He's actually tied with Antonio Brown.
All right, so Antonio Brown, like the Mike Evans of the world, AJ Green, TY, he'd be above.
No, I would take over all of those guys. But for me, even as wide receiver 7 or 8, wide receiver 7 or 8 is going in the second round. So if you're looking at him from that pure value, as you're saying, if it's just wide receiver blank, but now because he doesn't have that, because he has a tight end, and that basically the position return value that you're getting, that's where the argument comes where he could be late first rounder.
Okay, so let's say we were to throw George Kittle and make him only a wide receiver. Where would he fall in the wide receiver rankings, do you think? Would he be top 30, top 25?
He would be top 20.
Like, what's his range of guys at wide receiver, do you think?
I would say in the Kenny Golladay, Godwin, Watkins. Well, forget Watkins. Watkins has his own situation that could change. So Golladay, Godwin,
Cup.
The Rams wide receivers.
Yeah, DJ Moore, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it does seem like there's a discernible gap. That's the only reason I'm kind of hammering this home. Obviously, we know who the top 3 tight ends are, and we've talked about that, but I think trying to figure out where to actually draft Travis Kelce, whether you want to take that plunge or not, and whether it's worth it, is an important discussion to have, because that's a very critical choice you might have to make on draft day.
It is. And as you said, that's if they were wide receivers, that's where they would be. But because the value that you're going to be getting at the tight end position, people are going to be drafting them earlier. Somebody's going to take them earlier. If it's not the person like the person watching us at home right now, somebody in your league is going to take them if you don't. So you have to treat them, as I was saying, basically move them up a half tier, so to speak, at wide receiver, because Kelce, while being a wide receiver 7 or 8, that means second round, somebody's going to consider taking him at the turn. Somebody's going to think about it at the end of the first round. Same thing with Kittle. While Kittle should be 4th, 5th rounder, somebody's going to be thinking about him at the end of the 3rd round. I've actually seen Kittle and Ertz go more often in the 3rd round than I've seen Kelce go in the 1st.
Well, do you think it's worth taking Kittle or Ertz in the back end of the 2nd, mid-3rd, potentially early 4th round if that's where they fall to? And do you actually have a preference between the two? Because I can't really make a distinction, to tell you the truth. I just think that, and again, we're talking full point PPR, maybe that allows a bit more for Zach Ertz's floor, but Kittle's upside seems to be substantially higher.
And that's how I would split it. They're neck and neck. If you want the upside where maybe we can even see better, it's Kittle. But we also have a big question mark about what is Jimmy Garoppolo anyway. We haven't seen a whole lot of him to know, is he really so good? I mean, are the touchdowns even going to be there, which is something that we've always been concerned about in the little sample size that we have with Garoppolo.
However, if he was able to do this with, our main man, Nick Mullins at quarterback, it feels like Garoppolo should at least be a step up from that, regardless of how he plays.
You should be, but like it's the transfer to property, and that doesn't work in sports. Like these also, you have the addition of Deebo Samuel, have the emergence of Dante Pettis. You have Tevin Coleman added to this enormous backfield if everybody is healthy. I'm not saying if you take, look at the situation of Mullins and Kittle together versus Garoppolo and Kittle together, we all know the answer to that. There's so many more factors when we're talking about football and sports in general that it's not that simple to say, it's kind of like when I was talking about the transfer of property. It's not as easy to say, well, Toronto beat the Warriors and the Warriors beat, the Rockets. So obviously the Raptors would beat the Rockets. Like this doesn't work that way. So I agree with you. It should be there. And that's why I would say Kittle has the higher ceiling. Kittle would be the one tight end that I think could contend with Travis Kelce this year. Because Ertz, I love his floor more than Kittle, but Ertz is Ertz at this point. Like he's not going to get that much better, especially with the additions that the Eagles made. So that's where the distinction comes. If you want the risk, but the upside of Kittle, no problem. If you want the safeness, it's Ertz.
Okay, so I guess the big question now is once we drop down to tier 3, I'm going to throw some names out at you, and you tell me who we should include in tier 3, who we should take out of tier 3, and then we'll try to put them in order. And I even threw, you can do this for me. You can rank Jared Cook. I will rank him in worst place because I hate Jared Cook. Not drafting Jared Cook.
But I rank him.
No one else should do it. But he's a part of this tier of names that I kind of came up with.
So Did you not see my tweet? Somebody asked me, what's the floor of Jared Cook? And I said, the pit of hell. I'm with you.
I feel like, man, like you feel like I'm on, maybe it seems like I'm omnipresent on Twitter. I'm not on it quite as much as you may think.
I know you schedule like 7,000 tweets a day.
I do. I spend a good like half hour to 45 minutes a day scheduling some tweets so I don't have to check in every 10 minutes.
See, that's how I work. I write, stop after about 15, 20 minutes, look at Twitter, maybe watch a game that's on TV. That's my flow. That's my work process.
Yeah. See, I feel like I would get no work done if I actually did that. So the names that I'm throwing out for tier 3 at tight end: Jared Cook, Vance McDonald, David Njoku, OJ Howard, Hunter Henry, Eric Ebron, and Evan Ingram and Jack Doyle. Those are the names I'm throwing into the pot. So immediately, who do we take out of that?
All of them except for 3.
Okay.
Jared Cook's gone. There's no question about that.
Get out of here, Jared Cook. Beat it.
He is in my top. He is in my top 10, but he's going to be the most overdrafted tight end. Like, everybody's going to picture. Speaking of Graham from before, everybody's going to be picturing those days and forgetting. Hey, Drew Brees passes less these days. Drew Brees has always spread the ball around, giving Josh Hill and Humana random touchdowns for the tight ends. And now Taysom Hill's getting involved. So yes, you're going to enjoy the roller coaster of Jared Cook, where it was predicting 4 good weeks. Maybe at least here's the good news, Pat. It's going to be 6 or 7 good weeks instead of only 4. But
hey, as I always say with these types of players, do not draft them in your season-long fantasy league. Just play them every week in a GPP on DraftKings because they will win you 2 weeks for sure.
There you go. 100%. So Eric Ebron's out too. I don't think people are recognizing enough what Jack Doyle, and then you have the Paris Campbell, Devin Funchess. I still have Eric Ebron also inside the top 10, but he's very touchdown based. So the 3 for me, it's the only 3, and these are the ones that I'm targeting in a lot of my drafts, and why I'm not taking those big 3 is OJ Howard, Hunter Henry, and Evan Ingram. Because if you look at the numbers with Evan Ingram, with and without Odell Beckham, they're stark. They're almost double without.
Okay, but I do have a counter to that, though. That is saying that we take Odell Beckham out of the situation, and now we have no one to replace him. They have brought in Golden Tate to be a bigger member than anyone else, more than your like Lewis's or Kings or any of those guys were for the Giants in the absence of Odell Beckham. So you still have Shepard, you have Tate, and now you have Evan Ingram. So I'm kind of dicey on this. He would be last of those 3 guys that you just mentioned for me.
So Evan Ingram's barely first. They're all right there for me. He's barely first. And no, you are 100% right. It's not like they're just taking him off the field and not doing it, but it is only Golden Tate this year. It is Golden Tate past 30 years old. It's Golden Tate who is not Odell Beckham. Golden Tate needs to be in the slot, and Sterling Shepard's going to be outside. Like, I'm fine still with Evan Ingram looking at the fact that with and without Odell Beckham and saying the base here is the target share and the opportunity is going up. With Beckham gone, whether or not you bring in Tate, whether or not you traded for Larry Fitzgerald or somebody like it, nobody's Odell Beckham for this offense, demanding that kind of attention, taking up that many big plays, that many touchdowns. So that's why I like Evan Ingram. But if you want him in the bottom of this tier, that's fine with me too. But OJ Howard and Hunter Henry, these are the 3 right here. And the fact that more often than not, from what I've seen so far, these are all going to change. I mean, a month from now, we're talking about ADPs are going to be completely different. But as of right now, you can wait and get these guys at the end of round 6, round 7. And because of that 3-round discount that you're getting on Kittle and Ertz and 4-round discount on Kelsey, that's why I'm waiting on these guys, because now I can go load up at wide receiver, get myself a bell cow running back, maybe even 2 running backs before I even take my tight end and get what is a borderline elite tight end.
Otarius Jabari Howard, if you were wondering what OJ was. Do we trust him enough to stay healthy to rank him as the number 4 overall tight end? Or does that even matter? Because you can just plug and play you can pick up Cameron Brate if he gets hurt. Or
you can. And if you look at OJ Howard, it's not like a soft hit. This isn't all Alshon Jeffrey. Some of it's been a little bit of freak nature for him injury wise, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind. But to your point, as you said, if you have OJ Howard and you get him for 12 games, your 12 games plus 4 replacement games of whether it's Brate or somebody else you grab off the wire, it's going to be still probably a top 6 overall tight end, because if you look at what OJ Howard was doing last year, I mean, he's somebody that was pushing for that tier of Ertz and Kittle. And I still don't think he gets there just because the Bucs have enough options. And, Bruce Arians, though, His pass offense, it wouldn't be surprising, but at the same time, I don't think we can ready to put him there yet.
So Hunter Henry, again, coming off an injury, he'll have the entire season. He'll have, the off season to have recovered at this point. Chances like Gates comes back again for the 1 millionth time.
0. Gates is done unless Hunter Henry gets hurt again. That's the only way Gates is coming back. And even then, if you told me today Hunter Henry got hurt again, I would still put that at like 25%. I mean, we saw Gates last year. Gates is toast. Gates is for people to watch wrestling, it's like Goldberg trying to wrestle when he like almost killed the Undertaker because he can't even do anything anymore. So I wouldn't expect Gates to be too much of involved if he was even on the team. But people are surprisingly, I don't know if they're upset because of the draft cost last year and then Hunter Henry got hurt and they lost all of that, because people were taking Hunter Henry inside the top 6 rounds last year. They were treating him a top 5 tight end. And it seems like people are hesitant this year. And I understand the injury hesitancy, but I don't understand the actual on the field hesitancy, because Antonio Gates is gone. Tyrell Williams is gone. I love Mike Williams as much as the next guy and always have, but it's still Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and then it's Hunter Henry. Like Travis Benjamin's going to be there and get his big plays, but the third option should be, receiving wise, not including the backfield, should be Hunter Henry, and he should probably be the second best option in the red zone.
So as a part of that tier, you have it as 3 guys. Can I make the case to throw, let's say, Vance McDonald into that mix, David Njoku? Do those guys have any similarities? Or are we just talking like those 3 guys that you just mentioned all reek of a lot of upside? I feel like Vance McDonald's upside in the Steelers offense, now down Antonio Brown, the way that he really gelled with Big Ben towards the end of the season, that could be the next guy, the other guy who's a part of this tier.
I would say no, for 2 reasons. One, and now you're also talking about somebody who's got even a worse injury concern than OJ Howard. So that's part of it. But even at the same time, I don't think he's going to see a significant enough increase. He will see an increase, but not significant enough to get into this range, because let's not forget, they brought in Dante Moncrief, who just a few years ago, people were talking about how great he was. And I understand he's looked poor, but he's also playing in Jacksonville. Now he's going to back, in a great situation. You also have James Washington, who essentially lost his rookie season with the injuries and not just being able to get in the flow. They drafted Deontay Johnson. They have options here. Like, I don't think that Vance McDonald is going to become their number 2, definitively not their number 2, but even probably not their number 3, maybe sharing their number 3, basically back and forth every single week. And at that point, what are we talking about at the end of the season? 60 receptions, 65. So he's behind this group, not far, but I just don't put him in the same tier.
All right. Now with Beckham in Cleveland, and obviously that entire offense is emerging, does that leave David Njoku as a guy that we just want to play every week? And then we look at the stat line, it's like, oh man, why doesn't he do anything?
I think that's pretty much what's going to happen, is people are going to get so excited about the Browns, so excited about Baker Mayfield in this offense and all that type of stuff, that I think the expectations are too high for Njoku, because it's just a litany of options here. You bring in Odell Beckham. Let's not forget Antonio Callaway. Let's talk about Callaway just real quick for a second, of the fact of how high he would have went in the draft if not for the off the field problems coming out of college. Like, Antonio Callaway is a legit serious threat as the number 3, where if they didn't trade for Odell Beckham, probably would have been the number 2 starter across from Landry, in quotes. It's just, you have all that. They haven't gotten rid of Duke Johnson as much as this off the field situation with being traded, not wanting to be here, wanting more opportunities. He's still there. You have Duke Johnson, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway. They should get Nick Chubb more involved because he's talented enough. It's just, again, it's the cliche. There's only one ball. So David Njoku, as good as he is, and he's in that Evan Ingram mold of, he's more of a pass catching tight end than anything, or basically just a big wide receiver. You're just not going to get consistency out of him. I can see very much like a Jared Cook type season. It's going to be 7 games, you're happy. 5 games, you're ticked off, and a couple more games of just being like, whatever.
Okay, so we're going to go Travis Kelce, tier 1. George Kittle, Zach Ertz, tier 2. OJ Howard, Hunter Henry, and Evan Ingram as a part of tier 3. So tier 4 will kick off with David Njoku and Vance McDonald. I like Vance a little bit more. I'll put him ahead. Who else should we be jamming into this tier?
I would put Cook. I would put Ebron, as much as I don't want to put Cook in here. I think that you can make a case for 2 more guys. One is Delaney Walker, but it's a big question if he's healthy. I mean, this is late in your career to have an injury at this level.
He should be healthy at this point. He's had the entire year off.
Yes, and they did get rid of Matt LaFleur, so we got that situation. So, and even with that, Delaney Walker has been a great piece of this offense and a serious threat problem. So, I think he deserves to be, if healthy. And then I think you can make a case for Chris Herndon. I mean, we all see the advanced stats and everybody's tweeting out on the per basis and blah, 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 blah. But Chris Herndon, just as himself, is kind of in this David Njoku conversation. Not quite Evan Ingram, but he's in this conversation of somebody who is a much bigger passing game threat than he is kind of like that all-around tight end that's going to block half the time and not run routes. So I think if you look at Sam Darnold taking a step forward this year with Chris Herndon taking a step forward this year, Chris Herndon jumping inside the top 10 would not surprise me at all.
Chris Herndon the fourth. He's a blue blooder. That's what we like to call him on the show. He is risking the potential of a 2-game suspension for a DUI. With that basically makes him, I don't want to say undraftable, but I don't think that he will be drafted in a lot of places because of that you're probably not going to have in the first 2 weeks.
The best part about it, though, is it's the first 2 weeks. That's the easiest time to make it up.
I'm with you on that, but I think that we can rank him number 10, number 11, wherever, throw him as a part of this tier, but you can just draft him in the last round if you really want.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's, again, I think I've said it on 2 shows already, and I'll continue to try and remember it, always say it, is like when you look at my rankings or your rankings, or we're having these discussions, go check the ADP.
No. People don't want to do that. They've yelled at me for years about this. They don't want to do that.
Well, you got to do your homework, or at least do a mock draft, because to your point, even in an experts draft that I even did for a magazine, I took Chris Herndon as like the 16th tight end off the board as my only tight end. And people are like, oh, I thought he was going to make it one more round. It was like the 13th round. I'm like, what are you waiting for? So even the experts are waiting on Chris Herndon right now.
All right, so I'm going to give you the Jake Ciely official rank in my rankings. I'm going to go Vance McDonald, Njoku. Would you then go Jared Cook or Eric Ebron?
I would go Jared Cook.
Yeah, I'm not real high on Eric Ebron this year. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not high on either one of them. I have them inside my top 10. The floor is why I'm not drafting them, especially with the draft costs involved. The floor is so low for both of them. It's the Jared Cook. Any given week is going to give you 1 point. And then it's the Eric Ebron. Like, are we really that sure he's even going to outscore Jack Doyle? Like, I think Jack Doyle coming off injury. See, there you go.
So we got Vance, Njoku, Cook, your ranking, not mine. He's in worst place. Eric Ebron, Delaney Walker, Chris Herndon. I'm going to throw some other names at you to see if we should include them in this tier. Austin Hooper, Trey Burton, who was like number 4 tight end last year. Didn't turn out to be.
He had surgery.
When's he going to be back though?
He should be back in time, but it's a concern now on top of how poor he played. If you look at it, he was the Frank Gore tight ends last year. The only reason he even ranked where he did was because he played all 16.
Okay. Jack Doyle, Jordan Reed, and Mike Gesicki, who it seems like a year 2 breakout might be in the cards for him.
I could see that, but there's one name you also didn't include here. So speaking of which, Austin Hooper I thought about including Austin Hooper. I think all those are legitimate names to kind of throw in there. Hey, I could see.
Are they all next tier players though?
I have them all in the next tier. And there's also 2 more names that you didn't mention that I would put in.
Let me say, I like Noah Fant even as a rookie in the situation that he's in. I'd throw him in. And the other one is Ricky Seals-Jones.
No. So Noah Fant's in the one after that, which I don't have a problem with. I mean, Noah Fant's so talented. It's just, I'm always concerned about rookie tight ends. And especially like TJ Hawkinson, I actually think has a better chance for snap count and snap share than Fant does, because Hawkinson, it's similar to OJ Howard when he came out of college. It's the OJ Howard Cameron Brate situation, honestly. Is the reason OJ Howard didn't run as many routes initially as a rookie is because he was such a good pass blocker, is that when both of them were on the field, Cameron Brate was the better pass receiver and kind of poor in pass blocking.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the fate of TJ Hawkinson here. Is he going to end up blocking most of the time, where Noah Fant's just like,
no, because
go run routes, my friend.
No. The Lions are good about involving like one tight end if they can find one. They've been dancing around with this, even with Eric Ebron. But I think Hawkinson, for at least look, I could be wrong. I'm not 100% right. I'm only like 87% right. The point being is like, I just think Hawkinson has a better chance for snap share initially as a rookie. But I'm not saying Fant can't surprise us, because he is that talented. If you told me right now, somebody asked me that for Dynasty, I'm taking Fant over Hawkinson every single time. Fant, long-term, has Travis Kelce upside. That's how good he is. But that's Dynasty. That's long-term. The one name you didn't say is somebody that I was a fan of last year, who I continue to say was the better tight end that they drafted later in the draft, Mark Andrews to the Ravens in front of Hayden Hurst, because Hayden Hurst, whatever, he's old. He's not that great.
He's not old. Like, come on now. What is he?
He's 26? Old for a freaking second-year player. Go.
So it's not like he's 37.
No, but he's like 27.
Is he
Here's
20?
close.
Is he 27?
He's not that old, but he's close.
Hayden-
He's very, he was, I think he was 23 or 24 for a rookie.
Hayden Hurst Helmsley is 25 years old.
So there you go.
He's an old man.
24
He's
for a
got
rookie, so he's
geriatric
25.
hips. He suffers from osteoporosis. He's going to be like
No.
type 2 diabetic here in a minute.
He was older than Andrews. He's less of a pass catcher than Andrews. Anyway, point being, this is all about Andrews. Andrews deserves to be in this discussion for me. I'm getting a lot of Andrews so far, but similar to what you said about Herndon, you can just wait and get Andrews very late in drafts as well.
I mean, it just seems like they still have 4 tight ends on the roster. And it seems
Andrews
like
is the only one that's going to matter.
Maybe, but there's going to be, if we're going to talk about like hating Jared Cook because of this, and I know the draft capital isn't the same. One guy is being drafted, the other guy is not being drafted. So I like the upside that Mark Andrews presents. He's clearly shown himself as a big game player. Lamar Jackson likes him, but it seems like every other week, like just, oh, good, it's Boyle this week. Oh, fantastic. Like it just seems to be one of those situations.
So twofold is I think the talent, it's going to be Andrews' job this year for one, especially for the passing game work. So whether or not they only go with 2 wide receivers, because we'll get to the wide receivers. Excuse me, got a little choked up there. Marquise Brown's still not on the field. So we might be talking about Boykin and Willie Snead by week 1. There's a good chance that could happen. But I think Andrews is going to be on the field a lot for passing downs. I think he's good enough blocker that they don't need to take him off all the time. And I don't think Boyle's going to be much of a factor. So I look at Andrews. Yeah, look, here's the other thing. Andrews, Trey Burton, you mentioned his name, Jack Doyle, the Hooper. Like all these guys are going to have at least 4 or 5 down games. So I think
I'm just thinking with Mark Andrews, it could be like 12 down games and 4 good games.
I don't see that at all. This is where I come back to the argument you were making, which was a very good one about Tom Brady at the quarterback position, is I don't want Trey Burton. Like, what's Trey Burton's ceiling? Is Trey Burton is just going to be better than he was last year? How much is that? Mark Andrews, let's even put your scenario of the 12 bad games. Okay, you drop him and move on to another one. But unlike Trey Burton, Mark Andrews has the upside to be a top 10 tight end. I don't think Trey Burton has that upside. I don't think Jack Doyle has that upside, or who else did you? I think Austin Hooper could get close, but of this group, the one name that really sticks out to me is somebody who could surprise because of the talent and situation is Mark Andrews, and that's why I would take him.
You know, they always say that rookie quarterbacks love their tight end. Does that mean we're finally in for, get this, a Jordan Reed season?
No, because Jordan Reed can't stay on the damn field. And second of all,
yeah, but what if he does, Jake?
Kind of
what if he does?
No, there is no what if he does. And the thing is, Dwayne Haskins is amazing. And yes, I do think that Dwayne Haskins starts the majority of games, if not week 1. Is amazing at hitting people in stride, which includes his boy Terry McLaurin from college, which will include Paul Richardson and the Western. Speaking of staying on the field, Josh Doxson. He's not going to need to go to Jordan Reed that much like in past seasons. He's got some more choices this year. All right, he's got choices this year.
Any love for like Jimmy Graham, Tyler Eifert, that sort of guy?
If I'm taking Jimmy Graham or Tyler Eifert, it's bad. It's a deep league. I mean, I have Jimmy Graham at 19. I have Greg Olsen at 18. Rudolph at 20. Like, what do you want from these guys? Why not just dig deeper and just go for like even a Will Dissly at this point? Because none of those 3 vets are making it towards a tight end 1.
Walt Disney, draft him.
Yeah, Walt Disney.
Don't draft Nick Vannett. Draft Walt Disney.
Yeah, well, if I'm taking a choice, people forgot how good Dissly was. That he's the better receiving tight end.
I guess so. So this tier for me, tier number 4 is going to go. I actually like Gesicki a lot. He's someone that I would gamble on in the last round.
And that's fair.
He's not really going drafted all that often. And if you play in like a regular 12-team league with normal people, like he's not going unless you're playing in a Miami.
My concern is how many touchdowns and receptions does he get? Like
I don't know. But down here, I'm saying that like Gesicki could be their best receiver. And if that's going to be, a brand new offense comes in, I don't want to hear fuck all about fucking Devontae Parker. All right, I just don't want to hear it.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, he's in the best shape of his life. He's looking great. He's looking healthy and running around crisply. Come on, Pat.
It's not happening. I refuse to be hurt again, Jake.
Devontae Parker and Kevin White. How about that drafted duo wide receivers?
Sometimes Parker comes on the field and he'll have one good game and you'll be like, this is it. It's all happening. But it's not. He just gets hurt again.
I don't know. Watch Albert Wilson, even with a late start, be their best wide receiver.
Yeah, that's very much in the cards. He was their best receiver last year.
He was. And Devontae Parker is going to be Devontae Parker, and Kenny Stills is going to catch a couple big games. There's another one. Throw in your GPP lineup every single week. Keep doing it with Kenny Stills because it's going to happen like twice where he's going to have a 30-point game.
Yeah, well, of course. He's like DeVry College. He's got the stills to pay the bills. So my tier is going to go Gesicki, Doyle, Hooper, Seals, Jones, Fant, Jordan Reed. I'll throw Mark Andrews on there for you. Tier 5 is going to be like the old dude tier, although Trey Burton leads it off. It's Trey Burton, Eifert, Graham, Olsen, Rudolph. And then we're just into the rest of the people as like the tier 6. I got like Goddard, Hawkinson, Vanette, Disley, Jason Witten. He's back. Vernon Davis. 3 I actually had serious questions about. Then we'll get to the Patriots guys in a second. But Jordan Thomas in Houston, Jeff Swaim in Jacksonville now, and Darren Weller in Oakland, just because there's so few options. I mean, I know they brought in Brown. I know they brought in Tyrell the Gazelle, but Jared Cook is gone, and he soaked up a lot of their offense last year. He could just be a body who's on the field, standing there like this, 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and that's like Derek Carr's ideal pass play.
Yeah, so I was kind of hoping you weren't bringing up Darren Waller, not Weller. Come on. I thought you were gonna do it at the end, and like, anybody else you want to talk about? And I was like, absolutely, because I have him at 23. This is just super high, but I think is a name that people asked on like, what are some super sleepers that nobody's talking about because sleepers don't exist anymore. And I was like, well, one name that's really not getting talked about, but starting to sneak out there because I think I was somewhere the Bleacher Report, somebody did a little small piece on him. But it is Darren Waller. In fact, like if you look at his final season at Georgia Tech, for the fact that the receiving numbers he had at Georgia Tech in that offense was something where people are like, oh, he went in the 6th round. It was the off the field issues. Like he's a matchup problem. He is a great receiving tight end, but he had PEDs twice. That's why he was off the field the entire 2017 season.
So he's even more jacked than everyone else. He's NFL ready.
He is. And he's a legitimate threat. Like you just talked about it. We were talking about Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams. Number 3 could easily be Waller. I think Waller, like if you want Waller as your last pick, you don't even need to take him as your last pick. He is so far undrafted right now. I think he's like 400, maybe 350. Like you just don't even have to take him, but save for the last pick and just take that flyer. If that tight end run makes you miss out and now you're in this tier, like instead of taking Jimmy Graham, instead of taking all these Greg Olsons of the world, and you mentioned Jason Witten, despite looking like refreshed after taking a year off, those guys are still going to be on the waiver wire. Take Waller because it might turn out to be the best pick of your draft value-wise. And then if he busts, okay, then go grab Greg Olsen off the wire.
Waller? Hardly knew her. It'll be perfect. Should I jump him over these like old dude tier? Should I put him like next to Mark Andrews then?
No, I would put him in the rookie/old man tier. That's where I have like the Olsons, the Grahams with the Hawkinsons and the Fants. I would put Waller kind of in that mix.
See, I like Fant more than those guys, but I'll throw Waller. I'll bump up Waller into tier 5. So the rest of tier 6, you have those other guys. Anyone do it for you?
Not really. I think the 2 other names you mentioned. So Jordan Thomas is intriguing because the reports make it sound like he is their lead tight end right now. And he had some good numbers when given the opportunity. I just worry about the depth on this team, like with Atkins and the other pieces they drafted Waring. So like whether or not he's going to see much of the share to begin with, let alone if similar to your, concern about the Ravens, or is everybody going to continue to get mixed in? Same thing with kind of Swaim is I actually really like Josh Oliver, who they drafted. I think Josh Oliver is somebody who, if you look at, is the Evan Ingram mold. Like he was their best receiver in college. He was San Diego State, the best receiver, like not because he played tight end still. He was their number 1 receiver in college because he's that big of a matchup threat and the talent obviously at that school, but he was the number 1 receiver. Josh Oliver could be one of the people that kind of surprises you as he does end up making a tight end rookie impact similar to like a Hawkinson.
Okay. So New England tight ends, we got as Gronk replacements. Smartest man in football, Ben Watson. Steven Anderson, Mr. Anderson, coming over from Houston. Freak athlete, by the way. I enjoy Steven Anderson. Andrew Beck was drafted. And then we have from Denver last season, a fantasy disappointment every time I rolled him out, the Lacostitute, Matt Lacoste.
I was waiting for that. That's the one I'm going. If I have to pick Eddie, you came to mind as soon as I was putting the projections together. I was like, the Lacostitute. That came to mind immediately. Yeah, that's the one I'm going with out of all of them. There was opportunities we've seen with poor play at quarterback before with Lacoste that he has upside. We talked about, you and I did it when we did ranking shows and talked about the upside and potential of Lacoste. And once you're in that range, it's kind of similar to the argument we're making right now for other tight ends is why are you just going to roll out Greg Olsen? You might as well take the upside of Lacoste. As you said, was more of a disappointment than not. But I think it's his right now because the thing is, Watson, what is he out for the first 2 or 4 games? Because he just got suspended too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's out for the first 2. I'll look that up though.
Yeah, so he's out, and so you got that behind him. And then at this point of his career, maybe he's touchdown based, but I think if you're looking for anybody that can make the impact, obviously nowhere near Gronkowski, but even like 50% of Gronkowski, obviously before last year, I think it's Lacoste.
See, I think that if one of them really breaks out, I do think that's going to be Steven Anderson, just because of the freak athletic upside that he has, that they can utilize him well. And he could be the guy who finishes the worst with 1 catch all year and never sees the field. Like, I feel like he's on polar ends like that. Watson actually does intrigue me because he knows this offense. He, like, when I say he's the smartest man in football, he is actually, like, Wonderlic-wise, one of the smartest guys in football. That he's going to find himself on the field a lot when he's playing, just because he's not going to be a net negative to anything that they do. And if you're on the field for this team and you are playing tight end, let's say you were the starting tight end for some points or in all these goal line packages or even between the 20s packages, you're going to get looks because there's not a whole lot of options.
No, there's not. And the early reports, again, it's June. The early reports is they haven't been happy with N'Keal Harry so far. So you're looking for some big body for the touchdown upside. But I've grown more at Steven Anderson because I was on Steven Anderson for so long. Actually, coming out of college, I said if you look at him, he's a more raw Jordan Reed, and that's why I thought that he might make some noise with the Texans, and there was the upside there. It's just at some point it's heading down the Darrell Green Beckham road and all that type of stuff. Where okay, it's great, you're a freak, you're a matchup problem, you have all this athleticism, do something with it. And I'm kind of at the point now where look. If the Patriots don't get it out of him this year, nobody else is getting it out of him. So to your point, there's probably some upside there. It's just there's too many options.
If it wasn't on the Patriots, I would be all off of this. But where it is, I feel like if anyone can kind of unlock and be able to use that talent properly, it probably is Bill Belichick. And if he doesn't do it here, he's never going to do it. Listen, I'm not saying draft Steven Anderson. Just wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Ben Watson suspended 4 games to start the year. He's eligible to return in week 5.
Yeah, so that's a significant chunk for 4. And again, it is easier early in the season, but what are you going to do? Ben Watson, when he comes back, they're going to have either a void and they need him, or, I mean, he could potentially come back and they just are like, whatever, we don't need you anymore.
That could be the case. I don't think that you want to draft any of these guys unless you're playing in a super deep league, but they're probably like, hey, put these guys on the watch list, see what's going on to begin the year.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking also if you're playing one of the drafts, if you're drafting right now in draft best ball, or if you're doing anything like that.
We don't talk about best ball on this show. Best ball is cowardly.
I agree with you. I hate how people use it as a crutch. You're like, well, he's good in best ball. To your point, it's somebody from somebody Patriots tight end is going to put numbers where you're going to have 3 or 4 valuable weeks out of him. This is going to be the point.
I always like this too, because people like, it's almost like the best ball crutch. People are like, oh yeah, well, best ball. I own 31% shares in best ball. It's like, all right, that's fantastic, man. You did 5,000 drafts. You own everyone. I get it. But then people make the case like fantasy football isn't fair. We should just be allowed to draft Patriots running back and Patriots tight end. Like that's going to eventually come out at some point during the season.
You mean like team quarterback? Because that's already a thing in some leagues too.
Yeah,
well, it has been for a while.
But like, fuck off with this stuff. It's fantasy football. Like, you're not supposed to be able to just pick exactly what's going to happen. It's fucking football.
Do you realize that's now 2 topics? You've dropped multiple F-bombs, and I have no problem with either one because it was Devontae Parker and the best ball crutch argument. I'm behind you on these.
Like, I don't get it. Like, there's a randomness part of fantasy football that you just have to embrace. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be competitive. And if it was, chess, then, people would be playing chess. Like the same people would win year after year, especially in season-long football. Now, the best players will, if you play it 100 times, they're going to win a lot of the time. But in one isolated week or one isolated season, no matter what it is, there is an element of luck to it. And if you're going to go down the, hey, I'm really invested in Patriots tight ends, then yeah, you have this coming to you is all I'm saying.
Here, if you just want the best is the best and it gets the best result, then go play best ball rotisserie scoring. How about that in fantasy football?
I would say, you know what? Don't play fantasy football. Play rotisserie season-long fantasy baseball. Do that.
Well, there you go.
And you know what? No one plays that because it's no fun.
Well, everybody checks out in July because they're already out of it and they suck.
Yeah, like it's not rotisserie fantasy baseball, not a super amount of fun. Why do people like fantasy football? Why does it continue to soar and soar and soar in popularity? Why can you play it with your friend who knows jack shit about football is because there is the randomness of it week to week. Everyone's played against that guy who is just like brutal in their league. They end up winning 2 games all year, and the best team gets taken out by this guy at some point during the season, and all of a sudden that guy moves from first into second. Like, that happens. That's an element of fun of fantasy football that I think gets overlooked by the fantasy football industry. Like, this stuff happens. It's supposed to be fun. It's like when I talk about golf gambling. Like, if you're betting with money you can't afford, you should not be gambling. It's supposed to be fun. If you lose, it's like, damn, I lost. If you win, fantastic. But there's the entertainment part that no one seems to talk about anymore.
It's lost. What I always compare everything to in fantasy sports. It's poker. Like, the best players are always somewhere in the mix and at more final tables than most other people, but they're not always there. They're not even there the majority of the time. They're just in contention the majority of the time, which the best players should be. And guess what? You're playing one single hand of poker. You could be sitting there with the best hand with somebody who shouldn't be, has zero chance of winning, like a 5% of winning it. And then what do you get? You get sucked out on the river. Like, that's just what happens. It's poker. It's entertaining. That's what makes it fun. I'm with you 1,000% on this. I love playing poker as much as I can. And I get mad at poker plenty of times. I love playing in 50 fantasy football leagues, and I get mad plenty of times because you can't control the outcomes. You're better than most of the time, but it's not always going to be just because you're better. And I agree with you. It's fun, and people have taken it the other way and turned it into, this is why it sucks.
Like, I look at there's like 3 really good people in my home fantasy football league of 14 people. Over the past 10 years, we're down to year 12. So for the past 11 years of the fantasy football league, between the 3 of us, we've won 6 times combined. The other 5 times, just the random people in the league won. That happens. Like, if you can win your fantasy league like 30% of the time, you are in the very upper echelon of this stuff.
You're not wrong. I'm thinking about my home league. I've actually, and yes, I'll put the results out for anybody that wants to know. I've never finished worse than 4th, but I probably won about half the leagues, and it's year 13, and I haven't won the last 2. I finished in 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah. You don't win every single year. I tried to explain this to my wife. She joined fantasy football like 4 years ago when we got together playing against her friends. So I help her out with her team a little bit. She's won 3 of 4 years. She didn't win last year. She lost in the final. She's like, "You're not even good at your job, are you?" I was like, "It's fucking random."
Well, yeah, you want and this is, look, for people are going to take it. People are going to say I'm self backpatting here, and I'm not. The flex leagues, and now, for one reason, I'm the only person that's been in it every single year. I'm sure there's others that I haven't counted.
I believe I am the only person to make the playoffs every year before I quit.
Well, so I was going to bring up things like that. I was going to bring up the fact that you were in the playoffs of the year. I was going to bring back, I'm the only 3-time champion, and we only have one other 2-time champion, because that's just what happens. And we've been doing the flex leagues for 8 years now. So these are the kind of things that happen. And also, even though I'm a 3-time champion, I've played in 2 the past 3 years, like 2 different leagues, because we were on different cities. So I went to both. So yeah, like, you're the only person that made the playoffs every single time. I'm the only one with the championships. Out of the other people, out of 36 people every single year, with the majority of them coming back, there's a lot of them that have never made the playoffs. And these are the analysts that you're reading every single day on the websites.
Yeah, it happens. Tough game to figure out. Just aim to make the playoffs, have the strongest squad possible. And once you get into the playoffs of a head-to-head of any fantasy sport, the element of randomness just goes through the roof.
Yeah, 1,000%. That's why I got so afraid. That's why I don't play NASCAR. Because my guys are, I always saw the upside down flip car on DraftKings. I'm like, oh, I just lost 2 drivers. I'm out of this one.
Yeah, like Meanie and I won the League of Leagues football last year. We went up against, like, Jonah Carey had by far the best team, and we played him in the semifinals. And it was the week Todd Gurley got hurt, and Barkley had like a good game, but not an outrageous game, and we just trounced him. Like that was the end of him. He had by far the best team. It wasn't even close.
And see, that's exactly what happens at times. I mean, you could have a stacked roster top to bottom, and you still, that's what I always said for people that complain about, like, as much as people love DraftKings, if you complain about it, it's like, you could legitimately take the salaries off DraftKings, pick anybody you want, and you could still probably lose more often than you win if you just because of the randomness of it.
Yeah. All right. Jake Ciely at AllenKid, athletic.com/AllenKid. Tell people where, if they see a microphone on Twitter, they can find your podcast.
Well, first of all, if they go to athletic.com/AllenKid, they're not going to get anything. I don't have my own website link for the site, unfortunately.
You should really do that. That should really be a thing, because I've said it like 4 times now.
You can find me at AllenKid. You can go to the athletics.com/ to get the draft kit or whatever, but just go to my rankings. It should pop up there. But yeah, that's it. Everything's continuing to roll out. We legitimately have 30 or 40 articles that came just in the launch of the draft kit. And that's less than half of what we're going to have from now until kickoff day of the NFL season. So tons of stuff there for me, not just myself, tons of other smart people, including Gary Davenport's doing IDP because people love IDP for the people that do. So
No,
go check
hold on. People do not love IDP. Like
I said for the people that do.
0.5% of people who play fantasy football enjoy IDP.
I said for the people that do, the people that do are passionate about it. So that's like, understand what I was saying there. I wasn't saying the majority of people love it. The people that do are really excited and love it. So yeah, go check all that. I tweet everything out at All In Kid. You know that, just like you do.
If people are playing,
if
you're out there playing in an IDP league, go get a girlfriend or something, or a boyfriend, like whatever. Like do something else with your life.
Wait, time out. I don't play an IDP and I don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah, well, you're doing other things. Get a hobby then, like you have.
I tried. I shot my shot the other day and I got turned down. So
just tell them you know me. That always works. Whenever I say I'm Pat Mayo, and I know Pat Mayo, it tends to work out for me. Although you're a very handsome man, Jake, you just don't have the swagger of one Pat Mayo because you don't constantly refer to yourself in the third person. That's like, I learned that from The Rock.
Like where I have the rankings game of like 10 out of 10. Yeah, I definitely have like a 2 on the swagger. You've got the 10 on the swagger.
Quick tip, don't mention you work in fantasy sports. That's step one.
Oh, no kidding.
Never, ever bring that up. Say you work in media. That just sounds a lot better.
Somebody introduced me to somebody else who's like, yeah, this guy writes about fantasy sports. He's really good. I'm like, I immediately rolled my eyes and I saw her eyes just glaze over.
That's too bad, Jake. We'll get you someone. Maybe we'll have a listeners league for who can be Jake's girlfriend/boyfriend.
No, just girlfriend.
No, we are making it all encompassing on the Pat Mayo Experience. We welcome everybody here. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. If you want to get into a draw for $20 DK, smash the like button for the episode. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Tell me who your number 4, 5, and 6 ranked tight ends are heading into the 2019 fantasy football season. Or if you want to get on the audio version, that one's much easier to win, by the way. Subscribe, rate, and review the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you download podcasts. 5 stars, DraftKings handle, something nice about the show. Or follow me on Instagram, see a post for this show. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section after you heart the picture and or video, and boom, you're in the draw as well. You'll just see money show up in your account if you would, but I do announce the winners on every Monday Pat Mayo Experience. All right? Thank you all for watching. Again, Fantasy Football Wednesdays are now a thing on the Pat Mayo Experience. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!